So hello everyone and welcome to this webinar on ScoreBoard and fan experience. My name is Ben Hookway. I'm the CEO of Relative Insight, and with me today is James Cuthbertson, who's the CRO of Relative Insight.
Hello everyone.
So let's get into the agenda of what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start giving a bit of background very briefly on what Relative Insight is and what it does. What data sources are available for fan experience insights, and sort of highlighting a couple of problems and some solutions that we are now solving with a new product called ScoreBoard. And then James is going to take us through a real life instance of how a customer is using Relative Insight and ScoreBoard in order to effect a change. And then we'll do some Q&A, okay? Okay, so hopefully most people kind of know Relative Insight is a customer intelligence platform with a real focus on getting the most out of unstructured text. Originally, though, we were in law enforcement. So we used to help law enforcement identify bad actors on the internet through very advanced linguistic analysis. And over the last 10 years, we've been going on a journey to take that technology into the business world today. And we're now used by companies all over the world, both in pro sports, healthcare, financial services, and other industries. So what we are is a platform that you can seamlessly connect your unstructured data sources into, and these could be multiple unstructured data sources. We then do automatic analysis on that data. We will automatically produce real actionable insights. And then we will automatically give you bespoke reporting in the format and the manner that you need. So to sort of put a bit more meat on the bones of this, we'll sort of talk a little bit about what are the typical sources of data that we might be dealing with. So if you think about a fan experience journey or any customer journey, there's lots of different potential systems which have got unstructured text data in them. So it could be surveys when you're welcoming people, or the chatbot when people are maybe inquiring about ticketing or availability, CX systems, transcribe calls, social reviews, emails through loyalty programs, your CRM systems, your ticketing systems, and so on and so on. Now, all of these systems contain text data, which if you combine all this text data together and analyze it properly, it reveals really fantastic insights that you can improve your business with. And this is our world. This is what we do. So we can absorb data from any of these sources automatically, pull them together and produce the right insights that you can make some really substantial and impactful improvements in your business. So where we lie then is that all of this data on the left will automatically come into Relative Insight. We do our thing, okay? So we're leading edge text analytics and insight reporting, tracking over time, and all of these sort of advanced techniques. And then we can make that insight available in multiple ways. So we can export our data back out into your dashboarding systems. For example, if you've got Tableau or Power BI, for instance, we can enrich your existing, for example, CRM data with the insights that we provide. Or we can put out custom reports and alerting to key stakeholders in your organization so you can take action. So that's where we sit in the ecosystem. Now, I guess at headline level, we would always say that Relative Insight enables you to know why your customer experience or your fan experience metrics are what they are. Why are they moving? Why are they different between different games or different sports or different sections of the stadium, for instance? And if you're in the insight world, you've heard lots of people say, you know, we tell you the why behind the what. But my view is that that's quite a shallow statement in reality. To really make the most of that, it actually gets quite nuanced. So the way we tend to think about it is along these lines. So number one, you need to know why in time to make a change. So if you've got some sort of insight, some kind of customer feedback, if the people who can actually affect some change to improve that experience don't know why in time, then that knowledge is kind of useful. So time is key. You also need to know why with enough detail to be effective. So, for example, let's say you've got a lot of complaints around the PA system in your fan experience surveys. That's useful to know, but it's far more useful to know which precise section of the stadium had the problem. Okay. You also need to make sure that the right people and systems know why. Critically, in our view, you also need to know why with evidence and metrics as well. So sort of vague statements, which text analytics sometimes can be guilty of giving. You know, nobody wants to see another word cloud, I don't think. Don't really give evidence and metrics. Relative insights approach, it's all around putting metrics into unstructured text so that you get evidence, confidence, auditability, and so on. And of course, you need to be able to do all of this at scale with AI. So, but quite often what we find is that the limiting factor to the insights that you find is normally in the first three here. There's lots and lots of stories about fantastic, potentially business-changing insights languishing in the wrong places. The people who can affect a change either didn't know or they didn't know in time. And we all know that the kind of the phenomena of like, there's a fantastic bunch of insights we've got, but they're sort of sat in a PowerPoint deck, sort of rotting away somewhere in somebody's outbox or on a desk somewhere, things like that. And so the friction between getting these critical evidence-based metric-driven insights, the friction between getting those into the hands of people who can actually do something about it is quite often the barrier to real ROI. And this is what we've been thinking about and addressing with our latest product releases. So we have a new product out called ScoreBoard. And what ScoreBoard does is it allows you to get the right insights to the right people using the right delivery method at the right time. So let's think about a fan experience scenario here. So you want to know really quickly what the feedback has been, say, on the concessions in your stadium. So number one, you need to have, there might be a whole bunch of data that you've got from your systems, but you need the target audience, the concession manager, to get the specific concession insights as quickly as possible. But you also need to get it to those people in a format that, frankly, they can absorb. Like nobody wants to, sign on to a dashboard to get these things. So you need to get it to them in a format that they use a lot, completely understand, and so on and so on. And then you also need to do that, promptly in time. So delivery methods quite often is an email. The insight is actually headlines that are really easy to understand and digest. And so ScoreBoard will automatically take all of the data that we've been processing, automatically analyze it, and then we'll automatically create bespoke reporting specifically for stakeholders. So in fan experience, that could be people in charge of the concessions or facilities or general management or travel and car parking, for instance. So I've got an example of one here. So this is all we're talking about. The example on the left is a real one. The stakeholder for this is actually general management. And you can see that it's a promoter's summarization of opening night for game day. And we're giving the metric-backed headlines. Very easy to read, very easy to take away the the core headlines. And then there's a full report available if they want to dive into that. So what this enables is, number one, the people who can affect some change get the right level of detail in a really easy to consume format. And it also releases the insight team from that repetitive work, which they're always having to do. Okay? So if they're doing a fan experience survey every week, after every game, they do it over and over and over, we can release them from that burden and they can focus themselves on the meaningful deep dives that come in after that. So that's the concept around ScoreBoard. And we think we're seeing massive amount of uptake for this. And so what I'm going to do now is pass over to James, who's going to take us through a real life use case of ScoreBoard and relative insight in fan experience.
Superb. Thank you very much, Ben. So as you may be able to tell from my background, sport, both professional and collegiate, is a big area for us. We absolutely love this area. Not to say that ScoreBoard's not only relevant there, it is also relevant in many other sectors, but this is one where it's really taken off. So I'm going to be taking you through an example of one of our college sports teams out in the States. Next slide, please. So the first thing to talk you through is, with this particular use case, the structure of their ScoreBoard production is, as Ben talked about, classically after every home game that the team has. More specifically, we're talking about football, American football here. And exactly what happens is that they have a fan MPS program, which is in Qualtrics. So if you are lucky enough to go along to one of the games, after the game's finished, you'll be given a Qualtrics survey full of juicy open-ended responses that you can basically give all your opinions. We take that automatically into Relative Insight, and automatically we chop it up by all the different teams that are interested in that feedback. So that includes, but is not limited to, security, ticketing, merchandise, concessions, and parking. And it's actually going to be the fascinating area of parking that we're going to be diving into in a little bit more detail. Those insights are obviously automatically generated, and then we produce an email for each one of the team leaders for those areas. So a day or 2 days after the game, you'll get an email in your inbox if you're the manager for parking, which is going to give you the story of that game, good, bad, and ugly. How did your team perform? What happened in parking compared with all the other home games that season? Next slide, please. So let's get into the detail, right? Because it's sometimes the detail that really matters. So day of the game, attendees scan their tickets. It's really important that, as Ben mentioned, that we're able to get that feedback to these managers in time for them to be able to make a change before the next game comes around. The fan is given a custom link, which basically allows them to click through and complete this post-game survey, which comes through in their email. Quantitative data is recorded with each submission. So are they a season ticket holder? Yes, no. What would they give their experience out of 5, etc. And qualitatively, all of that juicy open-ended text flows into Relative Insight for us to be able to start creating those really important insights for each of those individual team leaders. And what it ends up in, as I mentioned, is dashboarding, which is fed through a ScoreBoard email, which finally and crucially informs both fan outreach. So if they've had a great experience or they've had an extremely poor experience, it allows this college team to outreach to them directly. And it also informs that open loop operational change. So how should concessions be run? How should parking be run? Are there any issues with ticketing and people getting into the stadium? How is the lead up to the kickoff, and is it engaging? Is it fun? Is it interesting, etc.? So we're actually able to inform loads of really cool and interesting operational change on a game by game basis. Next slide, please. Now, the example that we want to talk about very specifically is there was consistent feedback that the car parking prices were too high. This was coming through week in, week out. And it had a negative impact on the game day experience, even though a lot of the other game day experience was extremely high performing, and the overall experience was extremely positive. But the problem was that this thing was sticking in people's throats, so they were spending too much money on car parking. So what we were able to do is allow the team the opportunity to test and learn some changes. So this is what happened. Firstly, you guessed it, they were able to reduce the parking prices on a trial basis. In tandem with that, they also introduced a brand new grab and go self-service model for concessions, allowing people to quickly grab beverages and food as they were getting to their seats. What did they do once they'd made these changes? They basically measured the change in overall spend per person across the entire game day experience. And they continued to monitor the NPS, which obviously was at quite a low level due to this problem with parking. The impact of the change was that they experienced their highest ever NPS scores for football because of getting rid of this one issue with extremely high parking prices. And the really important kicker in the story is that they were able to maintain overall game revenue because they were able to increase the spend in stadium on things like the grab and go concessions, food and beverage. So the college team did not actually lose out on overall spend per fan whilst really supercharging their NPS scores. And this simply wouldn't have been possible had they not had the ability to test and learn over time, and they had not had this like very, very clear scoreboard that was coming through every week that was pointing to one particular problem that was really hurting their fan experience score. Next slide, please. So naturally, we were really, really pleased with that outcome. And it was very easy to draw a line between the work that we're doing and the outcome there. However, that isn't always possible. But what is always possible is being able to keep those different managers, different parts of an organization, be it a sports franchise or a bank or an insurer or a CPG, regardless of what area you're in. It allows you to keep your finger on the pulse. And we have a white paper which further leans into this use in fan experience, which is, as you can probably tell, quite a big area for us in ScoreBoard. So please download that and look through how other leading sports franchises are creating an elite fan experience in real time. Thank you very much, Ben.
Cool. Thanks, James. So I was using James's nickname there. That was real faux pas. Sorry, people. So actually, I'm just going to pull that back up. We do have some questions that have actually come in on the Q&A. If other people want to give us a question, there's a Q&A function in Zoom. If you can use that, that would be great. Okay. First question. You listed a few departments there. Are they the only ones that a ScoreBoard email can go to, or does it depend on the organization? James, you want to handle that? Because you've got a good spread, but I think let's talk about both fan experience, but maybe also other customer experience stakeholders in other industries.
Yeah, totally. So firstly, the answer is absolutely not. It's not limited to those parts of the organization. So if we stay within fan experience, there's a couple of different ways that the cookie crumbles in this. It's either that it stays within the FanX team. So the scoreboards can actually go to the FanX team and they can use it to create other reporting or to have ideation sessions around what they're going to take out into the business. So that's one, which is obviously keeping it quite close to home. The second one is this operational model, which we talked about, which is ScoreBoard emails going to the managers that run the actual the teams operationally, parking, security, etc. And then the final one, obviously, is that it goes to senior leadership. And so there may be an appetite for senior leaders to be able to have an understanding on what's going on in the game day experience. And it's a really nice way to drop that into their inbox on a Monday morning. And what we're seeing with senior stakeholders is that they love email, they open emails. And so I think those are the three models that we see within FanX. Now, to Ben's point, outside of fan experience, the model kind of stands up, right? So whether you're a restaurant chain or you're an insurer, or you're a bank or you're a pharmaceutical company, regardless of what it is, if you're tracking not fan, but customer experience or employee experience or student experience, the model stays the same. So those scoreboard emails either land inside the insights team, they go out into operational leadership, or they go to senior leadership, or a combination of all of them.
Okay. So we got some other questions coming in, but I'm going to take a gamble right now and bet that everyone on the webinar is, if they wanted to scan this QR code, they've done it by now. So I'm going to just take us off the slide. So you're going to get our full faces. There we go. Okay. Other questions we got. How often can you schedule an email scoreboard? Maybe I'll handle that one. As often as you need it, I think is the answer to that. We've got customers using ScoreBoard at various different cadences. We've got customers doing weekly, monthly. We've actually got some customers doing them daily because in some customer experience use cases, there's so much volume of data coming in from customers, say with transcripts of phone calls or support tickets, things like that, that they really need to be on top. So we can do daily if you want. So whatever cadence is suitable for the business problem that you need to be tracking is the answer to that. What else we got here? Does all scoreboard output look like that example? Again, no, scoreboard is configurable. So what customers tend to do is within Relative Insight, obviously it's quite an advanced product, there will be key analytical flows that are of particular interest to that stakeholder. So that might be something over time, or it might be something over time within a segment, or and so on and so on in this level of detail. So we can configure the scoreboard to focus it precisely on what they want to look at. So that's completely configurable. Okay. Other questions we got coming in. Can you give examples of other industries outside of sports who are using ScoreBoard? James, again, I put that one over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our customer base is a pretty broad church of different sectors. But what I'll do is, if it's okay, I'm going to slightly change the question and answer it slightly differently. I'm going to answer it: where have I seen it really perform well in other vertical markets? And I will say that there is probably one really important variable where I've seen this perform really well, is that there is an analytics program that naturally lends itself to overtime analysis. I think that if you're looking at something that you need to report on every week or every month or every quarter, and you have a core metric that you're tracking, let's call it CSAT or churn or average tenure of customer or sales, share price, you can change your metric. But if you're reporting against that every month, and there are lots of people around your business that care dearly about its performance, then regardless of the vertical market that you're in, I've seen it perform extremely well. And so that lends itself naturally to things like insurance. It lends itself naturally to things like banking, especially high street banking. It lends itself naturally to sport. I also see it work very well in higher education because of the programs that happen with students. And then the final one is all organizations with a large employee base. If you're taking feedback from your employee base on a regular basis, and you're a larger organization, again, ScoreBoard can be an extremely powerful tool.
Okay, got another. This is a good one. Do insight professionals love ScoreBoard, or are they wary of it? I think probably what's behind this is does it do a good job? I think so. On the whole, insight professionals in the organizations we deal with really love ScoreBoard. And the reason is, as James just said, most of the time, ScoreBoard is being used for like regular reports, which are being put out to customers over and over and over again. So it's like a scheduled report. And without ScoreBoard, the analyst team is having to compile these reports themselves in a sort of very repetitive manner. So the ScoreBoards are done automatically for them. And so what that does is that it really frees up the analyst team to do the deep dive analytics into the depth of the data. And of course, we're collecting a lot of data here. And what we're doing is really just surfacing the headlines and the key aspects to stakeholders. But on the whole, the insight teams that we deal with and the analysts we deal with really love ScoreBoard because it really saves them an awful lot of work, and it just drives a way more value out of that whole team.
Yeah, I would build on that point that Ben made, which is that, as an insights professional, if you know that you've got a brand score or you've got an NPS report to produce for the first week of every quarter, firstly, that can weigh on the mind, let's say, and cause quite a lot of stress. But if you know that a big part of that is taken care of for you, it allows you to get involved in the other projects, be proactive, and do all the things that your business needs you to do, but sometimes you don't get to because you're wrapped up in regular reporting. So yeah, I agree with Ben completely.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we are just about out of time. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thanks for James for all the insights there. Anyone needs to get in touch with Relative Insights, relativeinsight.com or info@relativeinsight.com. We'd be more than happy to talk to you more about this in detail. So thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.